Okay, there you go. Set sail around the entire world. On board is a group of sailors. Their plan was to sail from the Hawaiian Islands, that's here on the map, and then circle all the way around the globe, returning back to Hawaii again in under 3 years. The very last thing they had to do before leaving on their journey was to build a figurehead for their ship. This is a figurehead. A figurehead is a large wooden decoration attached to the front of a ship. The crew of the HMS Adventure was excited to carve their figurehead from a special kind of tree found only in Hawaii, a tree the Hawaiians called the koa tree. The wood of the koa tree, seen on the inside when the tree has been sawed, is a beautiful shade of red. Again, as far as anyone knew, Hawaii was the only place in the world where koa trees could be found. And so, with the figurehead carved, off they went on their voyage around the world. They made it across the Pacific Ocean and almost all the way across the Indian Ocean. Everything was going so well until one night, storms created huge 50-foot waves. The force of the waves snapped some of the wooden boards on the side of the ship. Once the storm ended and the seas calmed down, the crew of the ship saw the damage. Entire sections of wood had come off and were lost at sea. Water was leaking in. The sailors were terrified. They needed to act quickly. They needed wooden boards to patch up the leaks. Luckily for them, off in the distance, an island was spotted. And most importantly, there were trees on it. One person on board was especially excited. He was Joseph. Joseph wasn't a sailor. He was the ship's scientist. As ship scientist, his job was to discover and collect as much as he can, especially about plants and animals that have never been seen before, and then bring his discoveries back to his home country of England. Joseph was excited because this island they were about to land on was a new island. No one had ever set foot on this island before. It was going to be an alien world, and he would be the first to see it. And from the moment they landed, he started seeing all kinds of things he'd never seen before. There were animals he'd never seen before, like this, today called a panther chameleon, or these giant tortoises. Even the flowers and bushes were totally new. There was nothing quite like these in Hawaii. This island that these are on is known today as Reunion Island. You can find it here on the map, in the Indian Ocean, about 1,000 miles off the coast of Africa. While Joseph collected samples, the sailors were busy looking around for the best wood to repair the ship with. They found a type of tree that was large, with sturdy, solid wood. It was perfect. So they chopped the tree down. As soon as the tree fell, Joseph ran over toward its top end to get close to the branches. He wanted to get a look at the tree's leaves and flowers to see if it was something new. Whoa, he thought, these little flowers don't look new at all. They look so familiar. Where have I seen these before, he thought to himself, scratching his head. He pulled out his notebook and realized that these were the same flowers that he saw on the tree that they used to carve the figurehead from back in Hawaii. He walked back down to the tree's trunk where the sailors had cut the tree, and sure enough, when he looked, the wood was red. It was a koa tree. How could this be? Look how similar the trees are. Koa trees are only otherwise found in Hawaii, 10,000 miles away. That's almost half the world away from Reunion Island. That's the other side of the world. How could the same kind of tree be in both places? It's almost as if the trees had flown across the ocean. But we all know trees can't fly. How could koa trees have gotten on both of these islands, half a world apart?
Hey, so how do you think that the koa trees could be in two different places? Think to yourself real quick, turn and talk to your learning partners. How do you think? What do you think, Miss Jaya?
I think like they just grow there.
Yeah, but why? How could they grow there so far apart?
Like so the water makes the water might have something. That's why there's that's probably like the water and stuff mimics trees and islands. So might be
Okay.
Can I say something then?
Very quickly, Jimmy.
Maybe I think
some else in there and planted
Oh, Rudy.
cut it down the same tree
You're over
and then
back there.
planted
In here with
it and there,
the-
planted it there.
Oh, so Jimmy thinks that somebody came over there and planted it. What do you think?
I think
I thought you meant
we have
Rudy.
these seeds to plant. Like they go to one island and then to another one. That makes color.
Okay, go back to where you, all right, yeah. Okay, all right, so let's see. We don't have time, sorry, we don't have time to share everybody's right now, so keep your ideas in your brain. Keep your ideas with your neighbor.
The sailors were surprised to find koa trees on Reunion Island. Every other plant and animal on Reunion Island was different from those on Hawaii. So it must be that some koa trees traveled across the ocean. But how would koa trees get across such a long distance? Trees themselves are huge. The easiest way for any plant to get from one place to another would be for its seeds to have been moved. Seeds weigh very little, especially compared to an entire tree. Imagine if somehow the seeds of a koa tree got moved from Hawaii to Reunion. Once they landed on the island, they might have started to grow. And then there'd be koa trees on both Hawaii and Reunion Island. But how could the seeds have traveled halfway around the world? It sure wasn't the sailors who brought them. When they landed on Reunion Island, they found koa trees already growing there. Something else must have brought them. But what could it be? We need to go out and collect some clues. Let's look closely at the seeds of other trees and plants, like the trees and plants in your backyard. Maybe we'll find a clue that way. Take these yellow flowers, dandelions. You might have seen these in your yard before. If you've ever noticed, you can see how after they flower, each flower turns to this, a little fluffy white globe. Each piece of fluff has a seed on one end, right here. Watch what happens now as the wind blows. This video has been slowed down so you can see what happens to the dandelion seeds during a gust of wind. Here's another example. This is a maple tree, which you might also have in your neighborhood. See its seeds and what they do when the wind blows? And here's a fun example. This is a type of vine. You don't have this in your yard. It's found in the jungles of Asia. It grows this papery stuff around its seed. Here's the seed right here. Watch what these do as they fall from the top of the vine.
It looks like a butterfly's flying.
Yeah.
It's like someone riding on the.
So what do you think? Does seeing the dandelion, the maple, and the vine seeds give you any ideas for how the koa tree might have gotten its seeds from Hawaii to Reunion Island?
Any ideas? Any ideas?
No.
Anaya, you're gonna have to speak up loud.
Probably to the other island.
Wind probably took the seed to the other island, is what Anaya said loud and clear. Mr. Squatrito just couldn't re-say it clearly.
So like if you kind of agree with Anaya that it was wind, do the agreeing. You know, if you disagree, right? If we agree, if we disagree, if we want to build on it. Okay. You want to build on it? Do you have anything to add to that?
Amy,
Okay. So you think what?
what type of animals? Raccoons are gonna take them all the way across the world.
Like swim hundreds of miles across the world?
All right. Enough,
Okay.
Amy.
All right. So I think we've got some good ideas going on. I see the wheels turning in your heads.
The dandelion, the vine, the maple seed, all of these seeds are carried by the wind. There's a reason for that too. It's actually good for each plant that this happens. Take dandelions, for example. This field is crowded with adult dandelions. They're everywhere. If the adult dandelions simply drop their seeds straight to the ground, there'd be no room for new dandelions to grow. So the seeds have to get away if they're going to grow and survive. We saw how each piece of fluff on the dandelion has a seed on one end. The seed doesn't weigh much, but it weighs enough that it wouldn't simply fly by itself. So each seed has its own little parachute made of fluff. By having this parachute, each seed can be carried by the wind to a new field where there's room for it to grow. The wind will carry dandelion seeds for miles. Trees have to deal with another problem. If any tree were to drop its seeds straight down, the seeds would land in the shade of the tree. At first, that might not seem so bad, but that is a deadly situation for a plant, since all plants need sunlight in order to grow and survive. Maple seeds are bigger and heavier than dandelion seeds, and so a little fluffy parachute isn't enough to get them away from the shade of their parent tree. Instead, the maple tree seeds each come with a wing. This way, they spin like helicopters, falling away from the shade of their parent. Without this wing...
Okay, so I'll keep working on that. Next week when we come back, we'll keep talking about the wind, and we'll even get to do some experiments with that.